Monsters Who Murder. This is a very special first of, hopefully, of a series of looking at the body language of interviews that we see. As you can see, this first one that we're going to do is actually Prince Andrew. So this was from a couple of years ago now, but this is when he has finally decided to discuss Epstein. So let's have a look. I have a marker on this too, so I can press buttons and like circle things and everything. So let's just get in it. I've actually not watched this. I've seen tiny bits and pieces, but let's see how well we can get this going.
Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally we'd be discussing your work, your duty. We'll come on to that. But today you've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk now?
Because there is no...
Okay, so we already have our first one. I'm just going to go back a little. Oh, there it was. So
you've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk now?
There we go. This is going to take me forever. Let's just try it, and I will pause it straight away.
Speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk?
Now, he is not face on to the interviewer, whose name I don't actually know, and I'm sorry about that. But he is looking with a doubtful face, so he is trying to shy away. So where's my little markup thing? Hopefully this doesn't ruin it. So as we can see, this whole side of his face is actually turned completely away, and so he's just sort of showing one side of his face. And the cameras have actually done an amazing job there of just showing this half size side of his face. Now, Andrew has prepared for this. He is a professional speaker. It's what they grow up doing and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how this continues. I'm just going to turn that off. Beautiful.
To talk now.
Because there is no...
So why talk now? There was about a 3-second wait there before he responded, which was the first thing that people get taught when you're doing an interview, is you wait for the interviewer to stop and then you take your time to construct an answer. And so him being a professional at this sort of stuff knows that that's what's going to happen. He's probably already cited the questions. Obviously you can only do so far because things can go off in very different tangents, but he has taken that pause, and as we know, pauses are about constructing answers. If you don't have to construct an answer, you don't have to pause. Yeah.
No good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated.
Mr. Epstein, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. It is a distance that they do. So he is trying to say, that this is an acquaintance, that I didn't know all this other stuff that was going on that we know isn't the full truth, especially now that he's been kicked out of his next home. But it's interesting that is the language he has used there.
And we've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something.
We've been talking. The royal we, or him and his people?
Around the work that I was doing. And unfortunately we've just not been able to fit it into either your schedule or my schedule.
Okay, so he has just gone on the very worst way to do this, in that he's been too busy to talk about allegations of CP, I'll call it, because everyone seems to do that, and trafficking and things like that. So that's the wrong answer about, we've been trying to get our calendars to align.
Until now, and actually it's a very good opportunity, and I'm delighted to be able to see you today.
As you
that's a terrible place to pause. But again, this is him just, this is just a normal interview. This has got nothing to do with any of the stuff that we're about to discuss. And, I was already planning to come and see you, regardless of this, because this is just a tiny blip.
As you say, all of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people.
I'm very I'm someone who talks with their hands all the time. The fact that he is doing that's him trying to pinpoint things about what he's saying, and the camera actually pulls back or changes shot. Robert will probably have some term for that. It's showing that he is doing that, which is probably a nervous tic. Now, we know that Charles has a tic, and so he has learnt over the years, and I don't think he even does it these days, he may, where he holds onto his cufflink to keep his hands still. Andrew here is not doing that, and so it's interesting to see how that goes, and this is going to be a very long video.
And I had a lot of opportunity.
By the way, his tie is crooked. His tie is crooked,
To go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, "Well, why don't you come and use my houses?" So I said, "That's very kind. Thank you very much indeed." But it would be
he's shaking his head at a lot of those negative things that he was saying. Oh, I wouldn't have said it was a close friendship and things like that, but he's shaking his head, so he's saying no to a no, so that makes 2 negatives equals a positive. So, we do talk about head nods and head shakes when people are answering different to what they're supposed to be saying. So that one was a bit of a weird one, but yeah, it wasn't the truth.
A considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend, but he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together, and that's the bit that I remember.
Oh, he was an extraordinary man who could bring extraordinary people together. And then have them all in his little black book. It's interesting that that he's trying to show the positives of Jeffrey Epstein, rather than, this is a horrible man and I need to distance myself from him. He's actually going the opposite direction and say, well, I thought he was a great guy because of these other things that he did, not the actual horrible things that he was accused of.
I remember going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was that what you... Because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something...
Hang on a sec, we just have something there.
What I would describe as US eminence.
He's going to say...
Was that his appeal then? Was that what you...
Shakes his head.
You were perceived by...
So he shook his head there, where she was asking was the appeal that that Epstein had, like the elite around him, things like that, but he actually shook his head at the same time. Let's watch that little bit just again, just to show you.
Because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something...
Oh, sorry, I went back too far.
Also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title.
Sorry, I went back too far.
I never have really partied. I was single for quite a long time, in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy. And I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to
Weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
I don't know what I've done here,
yes, I
but
think I probably did.
but we'll just continue.
Again,
This.
I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn. And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted to find out more about what was going on. Because in the Navy, it's...
We're going on tangent there. You said you're the party prince, that this was a party guy, and now we're talking about him leaving the Navy. Like, it's totally off topic. So let's see if she can bring him back, because he's now just blah-blahing.
It's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time. And I was going to become the special representative for international trade and investment. So I wanted to know...
Okay, so just because we have the long shot here, as I said, his face is actually turned slightly away from her, but as we can see, his knees are pointing towards her. Now that is a very important body language sign that people sort of allude to quite often. Oh, it's got dark in here. In that you sort of turn towards the person that you want to speak to. So he's trying to appear engaging by turning his lower half towards her, which could be a whole other thing, but his upper half is actually facing slightly away.
Know more about what was going on in the international business world, and so that was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
He was your guest as well in 2000. Epstein
Good question.
was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But
You know how I said that they are trained to pause and reflect and construct an answer? He is now interrupting her, which is very interesting. I've got to know how this.
certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation.
Ooh.
Remember,
Now that is very important. So he has now given the royal family a get out of jail free card, which is often a good thing to do. That's him, I think, trying to save face a little, and take the entire blame himself.
remember that it was his girlfriend.
Okay, I've got an ad. So I don't know what I forgot about ads.
That was
Okay,
the
there we go.
element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that aspect.
Am I right in thinking you threw a...
So he's a +1 to his girlfriend. I'm assuming they mean Maxwell, but I could be wrong there. But this is actually contradicting what he just said about the Epstein said, oh, you come and stay at my house even if I'm not there. He's now saying that, that he was only a +1 to someone else, so he was a guest of a guest. There is that distancing again, so we're doing a bit of like a yo-yo of, yes, I knew him, no, I didn't, yes, I did, no, I didn't. And we're only 4 minutes in.
a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham.
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting
That's funny.
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
So she barely mentions a party for Maxwell, and he's like, no, that's a shooting weekend. I mean, how many shooting weekends did he have, and how many birthday parties did they have at Sandringham? That this is a prepped answer, but he's already starting to feel the heat because he's now interrupted her twice in 2 questions, which just shows that this goes for almost an hour, and we're probably going to make this into 3, but it's interesting to see how he's already starting to sweat.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle, at Sandringham, the shooting
Yep.
weekend.
See, again, he's actually facing away and he's just diverting his eyes towards her, though I stopped her at a very bad angle there.
Yeah.
We now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
Now, watch him. I don't know what's going to happen, but his next response is one of the most important parts of this interview, no doubt. Okay, so he shifted his arms, he looked up to the heavens, and he's licked his lips. So, all delaying tactics and all showing that he's not feeling comfortable and that he's actually starting to feel he's starting to feel the heat. On the table there, is that Absolute vodka? I don't know, I just saw that. I don't drink, so I'm not sure, but I thought that looks like a vodka. Anyway. And here's his answer.
We now know that.
We. Not taking responsibility as an I, he's saying we. As I said, it could be the royal we, but I don't think so. I don't think he's actually allowed to use the royal we. I think only like the Queen and the King now can say we, but I'm not quite sure.
At the time, there was
Facing away, eyes towards.
no indication to me.
A qualifier. So, when people say, oh, I believe that's right, that is a qualifier that they're trying to actually say, I don't really know, but I'm just going to hazard a guess. But it's actually used to reinforce their response that he's saying, that they know that now.
Or anybody else.
But look, he's not even looking at her.
That was what he was doing. And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States...
I just want to point out, don't forget we have a photo of him, Prince Andrew, with one of the victims.
Well, no, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication.
So he just there said, oh, no, it was this, no, it was that. So he's trying to make it sound unimportant by saying, oh, it might have been Tuesday, no, it might have been Thursday, which is a conversation thing I hate. But that's just me. But as we can see, he's really starting to struggle. And even this fortuitous pause that we've got there, he hasn't had Botox, I can tell you that, with that furrowed brow. But this is him. He's trying to close his eyes and remember to try and qualify what he's going to say, because it's going to be quoted forever, and there's people like me who are going to pull it apart. But he is really already feeling the heat, and this is him now struggling. So we'll see.
Absolutely no indication. And if there was, you have to remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaign, so I was close up
Big noting
with what was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children, so I knew what was...
Also, he's an expert in abuse of children, but he wasn't seeing the signs of maybe the young girls that was hanging around in his home with Epstein, that maybe they were being trafficked. But anyway, he's now trying to do the most not heroic. He's just trying to big note himself on the way that he is, the prince, and he was, on the board of this and the chairman of that, blah blah blah, to try and negate the bad question, the bad allegations.
What the things were to look for, but I never saw them.
So you would have made that connection because you stayed with him, you were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious during that whole time?
No.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
So,
if you go to court, they never want you to quantify your answers, and as we saw, he just did with a different question, but now he's just saying yes, yes, yes. and he's trying to think, oh yeah, didn't I, you know, we're talking 30 years of a friendship or something. Sometimes it's better to not say anything, and he's almost at that point now with him saying just yes.
2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine.
Look at that face. This is a defiance. This is saying this wasn't a question that I was expecting, and he is angry. That face is angry. The pursed lips, I mean, it's just like the lips aren't completely hidden, but he, if you say, oh, well, where's my pencil I can use? See all this? He is gritting his back teeth right there. He is really pissed off what's happening, and this is a direct stare. As we can see, it's not as dark around here now. He is looking straight onto her with that face. He is wanting to, like, say, how fucking dare you, basically.
But even so, at the time, I don't think certainly I wasn't aware.
Now he's making excuses.
When the petition was issued, what was going on in the United States, and I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
He never discussed with you the
Never
fact
discussed it.
that an arrest warrant had been issued. So he came to that party.
Have you seen anyone over the age of 4 that have shook their head as violently as he just did? That was him, like, being vehemently on purpose, that he is denying these allegations.
Knowing police were investigating him.
Well, I'm not quite sure. Was it police that were... I don't know. You see,
Again, his face onto her, because he's now going, I don't know.
this is the
It
problem.
was the
I
Palm
really
Beach
don't know.
police at the time.
But I mean,
Oh, the hands
this is
up.
the problem.
The hands up is one of my favourite things, and some presidents, especially very recent presidents, but not the current president, did a lot of the hands up. The hands up is a please believe me, you know, I'm the good guy here. It's sort of giving up and prostrating yourself in front of someone, saying, you know, I'm here and I fucked up, but please just believe me that it wasn't all bad, kind of thing.
There's an awful lot of this was going on in the United States, and I wasn't a party to it, and I knew nothing about it.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased
What a great question.
contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that
She's taking notes every so often, so it's interesting that he's trying to see what's on her page. We often do that, like if you go for a job in government, they often write down what you're saying, and I know it's very tempting to want to know what is on that piece of paper in front of you, to see how well you're going or not, and she's actually taking notes. Just brief things, you know, obviously some key words and things, because she has a whole page of questions, no doubt. But he is trying to look at that paper.
and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So I just it was.
Okay, let's do all this again. Let's see how many different stutters he has in this. Just going to go back 5 seconds. Oh, for heaven's sakes, play.
2010. So
What?
It was one of those things that somebody's going through that sort of thing. Well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
So no contact.
No contact.
When he was...
Now, you know, everyone does, and everyone knows who has listened to our podcast that I do actually have a stutter myself. So I'm very aware of vocal tics and things like that. But he was going on and he was answering more questions than what she had actually asked there, and he struggled to respond with basically the end of that sentence.
He was serving time. There was no call, no letter, nothing there. He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why?
Lips licked again.
Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become...
Okay, he had a response, and now he's going to quantify it before he continues.
As it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
But he has to go and tell him that in person.
I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him.
Okay, so now we've got the false bravado that, you know, he had to go and break his heart face to face. You know, people have divorced in faxes. I don't understand why he had to go and see him in person. And this is just him covering his ass in that he went and saw him even though he was a convicted sex offender.
And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time. And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park.
She's writing
that
again.
Was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed.
I was about to say,
when
that's
I
a photo.
said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company.
They were going to break up.
It was the next day.
So let's get this straight from his words so far. So he knew Jeffrey Epstein. They weren't friends. He was often only a +1 at Andrew's events. Though Jeffrey Epstein said that he can stay at his place, the guy goes to jail for 2.5 years, and rather than cutting ties at that time, like the court case, he waited for Epstein to get out of prison to then go and have a discussion with him about them not being able to see each other anymore. What a garbled mess.
And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
What did he
We'll see about that.
say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding. He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing or what he was doing, except to say that he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his...
He's now talking into his chest. So those of us with like our second chin, he's actually talking in. So this is talking to your chest. So basically, he doesn't want her to hear a word he's actually saying, but he has to say it. And so it's a little bit of a rough kind of thing. What's that? Boobar? You know, with that... Yeah, anyway.
His time, and he was carrying on with his life, see what I mean? And I said, yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. But with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
Who advised you then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship? Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No. That came from... So there were a number of people who so some people from my staff, some people from friends and family I was talking to, and I took the decision that it was I had to show leadership and I had to go and see him and I had to tell him. That's it.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as a guest of honour.
Oh, facing away again, squinting his eyebrows to look to look towards her. The downturned mouth, he is cranky that she just said that, because he thought he had just cleared that all up, and she's saying, yeah, but the date of that was this, and this is what the next thing was. Oh, I just missed a call. That's okay. It's okay, puppy. Sorry, I have two dogs on my bed while I do this. So it's interesting now that, every question that she's going to ask him, she knows the answer to. So she let him hang himself just there, saying, oh yeah, we cut ties, and that this was like a good breakup and all of that. And now she's saying, yeah, but after that, you were the guest of honor at a party. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Oh, in 2010, there certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release.
Look how far his face is turning away.
It was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honor.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. It was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
I'm just
interesting that he went, okay, if you say so, basically there. So that's an admission of guilt, but trying to downplay it.
just trying to work this out, because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long...
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
It was a...
Big sigh. Big sigh. Yeah, he's a sex offender. Move on. I shouldn't be laughing because it's a serious allegations that are happening here, but it's just it's interesting how this is playing out, and how he's starting to sweat, but I think he expected her to be a bit softer on him than she's currently being.
It was a convenient place to stay. I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one can have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do.
Bang! He should have said, "That's it, I'm out of here," and walked away there. We have another half an hour of this or something to go. I'm going to do this in 2 parts, but we will get to about 25 minutes into this, and then we'll stop, and I'll do a part 2 tomorrow.
And I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable, but that's just the...
I can be blamed because I'm a nice guy and I like to do nice guy things, like celebrate someone who's been released from jail for sexually abusing young girls.
way it is.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls, and you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
I really don't know what I'm supposed to do with the ads because I don't know how to cut them out. I'm so sorry, but I really don't want these ads in it. I don't know why it does that, but thank you.
I mean, if they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean. In the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So
Oh, see those hands? That is, please, I surrender. Let's have a look at that beautiful thing again.
I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't.
Sorry, I've got to move for my dog.
I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he describes...
That oh, puppy, no. That is genuine shock there. Look at his mouth is agape. His eyebrows are raised. He had no idea. I want to see that again. Hang on.
Seeing you, the guest was John.
Please don't.